It's a place of learning, excitement, and new life experiences. For some, at least. For others, it's a life of torment and eternal imprisonment. Each of us have our different experiences, but it's not overall a scary place. Unless you're there, all alone in the desolate halls with something you can't quite understand. It's not an experience many people have, except for the 4 to 5 people we'll be talking to in tonight's episode. Yes, that's right. These 5 detentionees are about to come into contact with something rather peculiar. A teacher, I might add, but it's a teacher they don't quite understand. Straight from the bowels of the nightmare room, I bring to you tonight's episode, School Spirit. We start off our episode directly in detention, where we're introduced to our 5 main Wait. Oh, fuck, not these people again. Yeah, it turns out I did this whole thing backwards. I ended up covering Full Moon Halloween first, which turns out is like an unofficial sequel to this episode. Sort of. I guess these kids were just cheap to hire, or they just really liked working with them. Based on their acting chops, I have a feeling it may have been because some of them were cheap. Anyway, we're introduced to our main characters in a literal roll call. Wow. How creative. Alright, let's see here. Jock?
Yeah.
Popular girl?
Here.
Troublemaking prankster kid?
Present and accounted for.
The teacher watching their detention today is Mr. Langley. And to the children's surprise, he's ready to teach them a lesson for today's session. Just before he gets to the lesson, the power goes out from an incoming storm, and Langley leaves to check on the circuit breaker. Just before leaving, the prankster kid makes a snide comment to get on the old teacher's nerves.
Mr. Langley, I just wanted to let you know that I was really looking forward to learning something today.
Don't worry. You will.
The 5 kids sit alone in the dark, waiting for the teacher to return. In the meantime, they make small talk about their mysterious detention host. The prankster kid talks about how he once watched some kids egg his car, and all Langley did was sit and watch as his car was continuously hit from the eggs. Eventually, the kids get tired of waiting around for Mr. Langley to get back from checking the circuit breaker, and decide to split up. 2 of the kids head to the office, and the other 2 decide to leave. Freddie here, the odd man out, decides to be a good student and continues to wait for Mr. Langley to return. The jock and the popular girl are the ones to head to the office. On the way, they talk about how they thought Langley had retired and how strange it is that he's here now. Meanwhile, the other 2 kids who attempt to leave the school make it to the front doors, only to find that they've been sealed, perhaps by Mr. Langley himself. And all the while, Freddie is still continuing to wait in the classroom. But then he notices something strange on the chalkboard.
Go to? Who's doing that?
I don't think anyone here would be able to pull off a prank that well, bud. Time to get out of there. But then, out of the darkness, Langley appears. Freddie seems somewhat relieved, but Langley reveals he may have more dark intentions for the poor boy.
Oh, shoot.
It's time, Frederick,
Time for what?
to pay for the sins of your brother.
Well, that doesn't seem fair, Mr. Langley. He didn't do anything. The kids meet up back in the hallway, and that's when they hear a blood-curdling scream. Oh, come on, Freddy. You can do better than that. Didn't you learn anything from the last episode? Oh. Right, yeah, this is still technically a prequel. Okay, moving on. The kids run back into the classroom, and that's when they see a message scrawled on the chalkboard.
4 left to go.
The popular girl tries to call for help, but unfortunately her batteries are dead because, of course, they are. Thanks, gossip girl. So, of course, the next course of action is to try and use the payphone, which doesn't work because there's no power. You think they'd realize that before even trying to attempt to use it.
It's probably down because of the storm.
What about email?
What a stupid question.
They decide to go use one of the teacher's laptops to get a word out in the school.
No. The office has a T1, which means we don't need a modem.
I don't care if it's a T1 connection. That still requires power, which the rest of the school does not possess. So therefore, it is unusable. Why don't you assholes go fix the circuit breaker or something? That'd be at least somewhat productive. And so the kids split up once again. 2 try for a window. The other 2 try for a laptop. Heading over to the teacher's office, they rummage through her desk to find nothing. So they get to thinking that maybe the answer's in the closet.
Hey, what if Langley's in there?
Yeah, no, he's hiding in the closet of all places. No, don't take the lamp as a weapon, you dip. Oh, God, yeah, that'll help. I got the lamp. Of course, no one is there. They do, however, find a trophy for the debate team, coached by Tobias Langley himself.
Probably his one big claim to fame.
Remember that. That's important. Meanwhile...
Must be some kind of safety glass.
Come on, man. That's not how you break a window. You didn't even hit the glass. You hit the wood part of the door. Just try a different window. Or use something stronger than a plastic chair. God, typical jock. Okay, enough about these idiots. Let's cut back to the prankster kid as he finds himself trapped in the closet. It's here where he gets attacked by Mr. Langley. See, now, Freddy should take a little hint from this guy. See, that's how you act out a scream. Now, with 3 left to go, things heat up as the whole school begins to go crazy. Once they come to terms with the fact that the prankster kid has disappeared as well, they discover a horrible secret about their detention host.
Tobias Langley, 1935 through 1996.
Langley's been dead for 5 years?
The popular girl runs off, and she too is taken out of the picture. That leaves 2 to go. They try to figure out what the ghost might want from them, as it seems like they were targeted specifically to end up in detention, as none of them had particularly done anything wrong. It's then that one of the kids begins to put things together.
We got those pink slips because we all did something that Langley wants to avenge. Dex laughed at him when his car got egged, and he said that Freddy's brother always misbehaved.
Oh, yeah. And Alexis told me how her father voted to dissolve the debate team.
A couple months ago, Mrs. Hanover asked me if I wanted to start a new debate club, and I said, no way, nobody's going to want to do that. And then she just sort of dropped it.
Now that we have a reason for these horrific events, the jock kid suddenly disappears without warning. And then, there was one. Okay, I'm sorry I keep referring to the characters this way. It's just, they're kind of forgettable, and I have a lot of trouble remembering their basic names because they're just, well, like I said, forgettable. Not as bad as they are on Full Moon Halloween, but still. The last surviving student runs around the halls with Langley stalking her. Seemingly, there's no resolution in sight as her stalker is devoted to enacting his ultimate revenge. For her not starting a debate team, I guess. Oh, that's a nice effect.
It's time, Janet.
Oh, that's her name. Janet. Cool, gonna immediately forget that. She runs off and bumps into the trophy cabinet where she sees that the Jock's MVP trophy replaced Langley's trophy from earlier. It's then that she comes to the realization that Langley wants his trophy back in the cabinet. So she grabs some keys and rushes toward the cabinet to open it. She struggles with the lock as Mr. Langley approaches from the far hall, getting closer, 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 until he's right on top of her. Oh, well, at least he's somewhat reasonable, for a ghost. I mean, besides the fact that he targeted kids that ultimately did nothing wrong to him. I mean, the prankster kid, yeah, he literally is the only one who actually did something wrong to him. He laughed at him once, I guess. Everybody else either unintentionally did something to him or had a family member do something to him. Kind of a weird way to go about things, but I guess it worked as Langley got his trophy back in the trophy case. So that begs the question, what's going to happen when they take that trophy back out of the case? If they did it once, they'll do it again, and if they see it in there the next day, they'll probably go, who put this here, and just take it right back out. Does this whole thing just start all over again? If so, that's a really petty ghost. I guess they just need to build a shrine to him or something. Anyway, once that's all been taken care of, we get our typical happy ending where everybody who was killed is brought back to life and they just forget about everything that's happened. Except for Jamie. Jamie? Janet? Just one of those. Whatever. So I guess no one got hurt. That's cool, I guess. As our episode reaches a close, we get an answer to the question that I posed earlier, as some of the teachers talk about taking down the photos of deceased staff in favor of putting up pictures for the varsity sports team. The episode then ends with a close-up of Langley's portrait, although he doesn't look too happy. Man, he is petty. Go after the teachers this time, Langley, for God's sakes, at least they did something. So that was School Spirit, and I thought it was okay. It had a general theme to it, and that's always great when it comes to an episode. The major theme for this one is not wanting to be forgotten. It's kind of a thing that we can all relate to. Nobody wants to be forgotten. Everybody wants to be remembered for something, whether it be through our accomplishments in life or through our children. But for Langley, it was his coaching work in the debate team. While that's somewhat minuscule, to him that was his life, and he wanted to be remembered by that in some way or fashion. Although his way of going about that seems kind of petty, and I wish we could have dealt with that in a more mature way. Maybe he could have seen that he doesn't need a trophy to be remembered by, and seen how he affected other students in a good way, and use that to move on. I mean, sure, that ruins the dark ending they were going for, but it would have been more in line with the overall theme that the episode was going for.
Somehow I never understand how so many of you students are so disrespectful to teachers. Teachers! People who spend their entire lives devotedly trying to help you. And what do we get in return? We are ridiculed, made fun of, and then we are forgotten.
In the end, though, it's a little melancholy, and I can appreciate that. Despite that little caveat, the episode overall is just okay. The characters are a little stupid, but slightly more tolerable than they were in Full Moon Halloween. I don't really have any deep criticism about them besides the fact that, well, they're idiots, and the fact that we have a 30-minute episode with 5 characters to develop. Usually character development suffers greatly when it's shoved into that much time. There were a couple boring moments with nothing happening. There were a few bland moments with attempt and humor that I didn't find interesting, but this episode does set up a good atmosphere, which a lot of other episodes that I've covered already really lacked in. Still, overall, this episode isn't very memorable, which is kind of ironic because that's the major theme of this episode, is to be remembered, but I forgot this episode completely existed. Oh, please, Mr. Langley, do not come after me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean any of it. Oh, jeez. Anyway, let's get to the scoring. For this episode, I would think I would gonna give it a 6 out of 10. Closer than a 5, than a 7, but you know what? It's alright. I think the overall themes that this episode tries to pull off is why I gave it this high of a score. It's a strong theme. I just wish they could have done a little bit more with it and maybe toned down some of the more goofier parts of it. But it's the Nightmare Room. It's made for kids, so what can you do? And that was tonight's episode. I hope you all enjoyed. Be sure to stick around for next episode when we cover more Nightmare Room and Goosebump goodness. See you next time, and remember to have a scary day.